Ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else, welcome to Thursday night to another American Sci-Fi Classics Track quarantine panel. You are stuck here with us for the next 1 to 6 hours.
Partridges.
Yes. And tonight we are talking about, see, here's the thing. A lot of people with their podcasts and their video things, they digress and go off on tangents and don't get started on the actual topic until like 15 or 20 minutes in. We start the topic first, and about 45 minutes in, when you're thinking, surely they're about to wrap up, that's when we hit fifth gear, ladies and gentlemen.
That's when we completely derail.
Completely. Well, no, usually everyone except me manages to hold it together the majority of the show. But so far, so good. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, what? All right, so tonight we're talking about the Legend of Zelda. The anniversary, the 35th anniversary of the Legend of Zelda video games. And with me to do that, one castle away from me, to my left, Michael Falkner.
I think somebody owes me for some door repairs, about 20 rupees. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
This is correct. And one castle south of me, Mr. Gary Mitchell.
Who broke all these damn clay pots? And why are these chickens so angry?
Oh, the angry chickens, man.
Yes.
My favorite part. Now, Legend of Zelda's no pitfall, but that's how I want to start. So, okay, yeah, y'all continue. So, tell me your encounters with Legend of Zelda. What was the first time you played? When was it? What happened? What drew you into the first playing of the Legend of Zelda?
I think it was the gold cartridge that really snagged my attention. You know, it was bright and shiny, and it was kind of unique in that way. It was also one of the first games I had played that had a save mechanism, a set of save files on it. You know, instead of doing a password or like most Nintendo games do, where you just played and then okay, you're dead, and then okay, just pick it up at the beginning and start again. And the big thing that really jumps out at me, the reason it really has a strong part in my heart is at the time that I was playing it, I was, working my way through it. I'm going to date myself. I was a kid at the time, probably less than 10, but playing this game, and I had gotten to level 9, Death Mountain, and I was like, okay, I know this is going to be tough. I talked to my brother about it before, and he said, oh, it's a tough level. Let me know when you get there. We had been communicating back and forth, via letter. He was up in Washington. I was in Utah. I just let him know, like, hey, I'm there. He sends me a letter back with this hand-drawn map of the skull, fortress with, some cartoons he drew on there. And it's like numbered and stuff. So like, I know exactly the path to take to get through this thing. I was like, okay, that's great.
Wonderful.
It's great. And I get to the I step into the maze, and I'm like, okay, let's go. And the music hits me. Everything's been the same music wise throughout the game, but this one has a special set of music to it. And so I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I take a second to get used to it. And I start going through the maze, and I get to the room right before Ganon. And I had never completed a Nintendo game before, especially one of this magnitude. And so I'm like just shaking. And I sat the controller down, and I stood away for a second. I'm just like, okay, I got this. Imagine like an 8 or 10-year-old kid just like, nope, I got this. Hang on a second. Okay, I'm back in. And I went in there and first try, defeated Ganon, got the Triforce. I was just like, I just beat a video game. This is awesome.
That is,
yeah.
Was that? Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, that's really kind of a thing because, up through, up to this point, video games were designed for one thing, to suck quarters away from children and adults. But it was, there was no end game. There was no reaching the final level. There was you played and you played and you played until either you ran out of money and died, or your mom yelled at you for spending $10 of laundry money that she'd hidden somewhere on Pac-Man. So I'm not speaking from experience or anything. So it's wild to consider that someone came up with the idea of, hey, we're playing this at home. The kids, we've got their money. Give them an ending.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Stormy's getting here. Ladies and gentlemen, hey. So,
she had to fight her way through the water temple.
That's right.
Yeah. The very first panel that you, Michael, I believe, did with us on the American Sci-Fi Classics Track was about video games. So it's all circled back around now. So after this one, Michael, you're done. You don't have to.
My contract's complete. I can go shred that now.
So Gary, when are you going to be done? It's funny because he's never going to be done.
Nope. You're never done. I have actually, yes, I am one of those weirdos that has never owned any piece of Nintendo or system. I was always broke, and when I finally did get the money for a system, I got the Sega Genesis because I wanted to play one particular game. And so, but I know lots and lots and lots of nerds who do love Zelda to pieces. I have come to realize that it is a Triforce to be reckoned with.
Oh, look at you.
Yes. So, I mean, it's one of those things that just by pop culture osmosis, there's no getting away from it. If you play video games at all, Legend of Zelda. If you are a tabletop role-playing game person, Legend of Zelda, because there are so many people that have gone, we're playing in Hyrule, or we're not playing in Hyrule, but we're playing in Hyrule. And it was a groundbreaker because, again, it was it was one of the first open world games where you could explore at your leisure. You could go anywhere you wanted. You leveled up, and if you wanted to, you could run straight for, Ganon at the end, like an idiot, or you could explore and take your time and annoy some chickens. And, and so it's like, it's
chickens had it coming.
Yeah. So it's impossible to understate the impact of it in video games, in nerd culture, period. And I mean, Robin Williams named his kid Zelda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And she, last year, she dressed up as Link for Halloween.
Aww.
What?
It was tears.
Yeah.
So many tears.
So tell us, but before you got here, Stormy, tell us, Michael and Gary talked a little bit about their first encounters with Legend of Zelda. So give us yours. Where did you?
Well, I'm an old, so I have a side part and skinny jeans. So when I was I want to say 8 years old, for Christmas, my big present was the Nintendo Power Pack that had the power pad and the gun with Mario and Duck Hunt. Spoiler alert, for the power pad, nobody actually ran. You just beat your fist and then would do the long jump like this for 20 minutes and then be like, I'm the winner of everything.
Yep.
But the second game I got was Legend of Zelda. And to this day, if you ask me what my favorite game is, I usually say Zelda. And if you ask me which one, I usually say the original, because that was my introductory to it. And that was my first kind of sort of role-playing game. And it was really, really cool. And I loved the mythology behind it. And then I don't remember like any of the plots, but they had a Legend of Zelda cartoon that I religiously watched. May possibly have had one of my very first crushes on Link. He come to town. He come to save the Princess Stormy. So yeah, that's kind of like how I fell into it. And I just ever since I haven't played all of them, but I played a lot of them, and I like really, really like. There's never been a point where I'm like, oh, this is boring, or like I don't want to play this anymore. Like, it's usually like, it's been 3 days. I should probably take a nap. Like, I'm almost to the end, and like I called that wolf, but I'm seeing things. So.
Now, were all
How
the
about
games,
you, Joe?
I confess, somewhat like Gary, I have played very little of Legend of Zelda, and I feel bad. But I have seen the Legend of Zelda cartoon recently.
Wow,
So,
really? What is it streaming on?
it is on. There's a Tubi or Tubby.
Yeah, I have that.
Yeah.
I got it to watch a movie that a documentary or something, and I haven't watched anything since. But now that I know it's on there, I will watch
Oh
it.
yeah, Tubi. Let's say Tubi. I don't know how it's pronounced.
Because otherwise it's Tubby, and I feel personally attacked.
Exactly. So it has a bunch of old. I say old. I mean awesome things from the
Classic.
80s and the 70s. So I've got
Nicely done, sir.
It has it has Return to Savage Beach on it. So,
Ooh.
I don't even know what that is.
oh, you don't. But a lot of Mystery Science Theater movies are on it too. And,
They're harder to watch without the bots, I will say.
oh no, and the actual Mystery Science Theater episodes
okay.
are on there too.
Oh,
So,
Just invite me over. It's pretty much the same thing.
yeah.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
no,
what-
there's but the Legend of Zelda cartoon is. I mean, the adventures are cool. It's a cartoon from the 80s or the mid 90s, and however, Link throughout every episode, constantly, his only action is seeking to put kisses on Zelda. That's his sole motivation. Every time he does anything. So, what about that kiss, Zelda? When's that happening?
Well, there's a reason he doesn't talk in the game.
Right.
Because he's a creeper.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, she's over there. She's been kidnapped, and I gotta go. And then and now, to the game and the show's credit, a lot of the episodes that I've seen, she saves herself, which is very cool. And then Link comes in going, so what about that kiss? And Zelda's like, bitch, I done saved myself. Her language was not as filthy as all
Right.
that. But
Princesses can be very foul-mouthed.
I mean,
I have a story about that involves Dragon Con.
okay.
Let's just say I'd been in the bathroom for a very long time, and I looked up and saw my reflection in the piping of the toilet, and I literally said out loud to no one, "This is not very princessly behavior."
But the cartoon is something. If you are a Legend of Zelda fan or just a fan of video game things, please seek it out. And then we can come back and we can all talk about it.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. It is something.
Yeah, and I like Ryan's comment there about that. The game gave me unrealistic expectations of what a boy could do with a boomerang.
Yep.
Indeed.
Yeah, unlike my dad, they always come back.
Oh,
Oh.
if anyone had 20 minutes at dark.
We haven't even hit 15.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But
so in response to Curtis, are we going to dance around the cartoon? Well, I think that's it. I think we did it. But
we didn't dance around it. We rushed right into it.
That's right.
So about that cartoon for the next 30 minutes. No, we just plowed right into it.
It was the one thing I really looked forward to. I watched the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, when it was on the air, and I was bored to tears with the Mario live action stuff and with the Mario cartoon. But every Friday I was like, we get a new Zelda. And about 2 or 3 months into it, you realize, wait, they're just repeating these. There's only 13 episodes.
Back in the olden times, because we're olds, back in the olden times, we thought there were way more episodes than there actually were. But there were, like, as you said, 13. When we thought, well, these are just new episodes every week, right? We don't know. And it wasn't until He-Man and DuckTales where there were actually a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
And those are the ones I remember being like actual new things when we came back to them. Like, well, there's more than 8 of these. But hang on, this from Curtis.
Okay, I remember the Legend of Zelda cereal.
I wanted to bring this up actually. So
yes, let's do it.
If you guys don't remember, it was a 2-part box, and it had Super Nintendo Mario Brothers cereal on one half and Legend of Zelda cereal on the other. And I would get in trouble because I would only eat the Zelda half, and then I'd be like, "This is trash." Like, and my mom would be like, "I'm not buying you another box until you finish it." And I'd be like, "Super Mario." I don't want that.
Don't want to eat Italian plumbers.
I know, right? And none of the mushrooms ever like made me trip balls or get bigger. So I mean,
a few fireballs come out of places, but they weren't like the ones that anyway.
My mom's like, "Why are you eating flowers in the front yard?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna get that turtle." the
Super Mario parts I'd forgotten completely about, but on let's say Tubi, they do the whole Legend of Zelda episode, but then the closing credits is just Captain Lou Albano doing the Mario theme song, and it is amazing.
Yeah.
Do the Mario.
Captain Lou Albino is like the only live action Mario thing that's worth a damn. Like,
yes,
everything else was trash, but like Lou Albino, what a treasure!
A national treasure. That man is a genius. But
and now I have a terrible idea for Dragon Con. A terrible idea, and that is
they're always the best ideas,
right? Yes. That is a flash mob of people doing the Mario.
We could get in the Guinness Book of World Records,
right?
Okay, hang on. Where's my pen? We're doing this. We'll get with our pals at the video game track, and they'll be like, "You want us to do what?" We're like, no, it's happening. They're like, "Okay."
The year I dressed up as Princess Peach, I called myself Princess Preach, and I would just like drop like hot takes on people. So I will do that for like, and I'll lead the charge to the flash mob.
That's so awesome. Oh. So what? After the original Legend of Zelda, how many new games have there been? What, 7, 6?
Oh, more than that. It's so many.
Oh, I want to say like 12, maybe.
Oh, okay. I lost complete track. But
let's see. According to our good friends at the Wikipedia,
sure.
19 entries on all of Nintendo's major game consoles, as well as spin-offs.
I'm a little.
Oh, that's spin-offs too. Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say that.
So like Link or the Princess would be in like Mario Kart
or like Smash Brothers, probably.
Smash Brothers.
Yeah. My favorite one to always bring up that makes people cringe though is the Faces of Evil, which is the one where it's got the terrifying cartoony animation and just pure nightmare fuel.
Was that the CDI series?
Yep, the CDI series.
Yeah.
The Faces of Evil and Wand of Gamelon. And ooh.
The games that even Nintendo were like, no, those never happened.
Mhm.
So once the graphics got better, were people even more into Legend of Zelda at that point, or
That's a hard one that's a hard question, I think. Because I know, like, especially because there's so many, I think a lot of people, even who aren't ancient and decrepit like ourselves, grew up with a Zelda. They grew up with a Legend of Zelda game. So, and then, as each new one came out, no matter what point you started at, I think a lot of people, because it's such a good series, a lot of people were like super hyped. Like, I remember when Breath of the Wild came out, like, people like were almost like losing their minds in the street. They were like, it's a new Zelda, it looks amazing. So I think there's a hardcore like base that expands across, a couple generations that have built upon it. And then, like, I think a lot of people like our age and even a little younger who are parents, like, want to share their childhood stuff with their kids. Yeah. And so they get, their kids hooked on like a 27-year-old game.
What is this?
And then, right, they're like, why don't I can't swipe? What is this brick with 2 buttons? So I think that's probably why it's so like ingrained in nerd culture, and why, like, when every new game comes out, and then of course there's new generations where this will be like their first Zelda game, but like there's so much stuff in pop culture where it's saturated that even if it's a new game, you probably have like seen Triforce stuff around, or just any kind of Legend of Zelda stuff.
Yeah, I have seen so many heart container tattoos, or the Triforce, or the shield is very popular.
Yeah, System of a Down did the song.
Yeah,
because right before the cast, my boyfriend was like, "You guys should play," and I was like, "Is it System of a Down?" And he was like, "Damn it! How did you know?" I was like, "Because I'm a nerd and I love Zelda."
Yeah, you always know when there's going to be, though, a new system. There's going to be a new Zelda game.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, every time it's like
handhelds.
Yeah. So there's always going to be a new Mario game, and there's always going to be a new Zelda game. And each time, I think the reason it hangs on is they keep pushing that technology. Like the first game, again, you got the open world, you got the exploration, I saw so many people dedicated to making the maps, like Michael was talking about earlier, of like, I've got all the temples mapped out, and then Orcana of Time comes out and people are like sharing, all right, well, here's how you get through this temple and here's how you go through that. And again, like Stormy said, Breath of the Wild, I saw so many people going gaga for that. And again, but not only does it push the video game console, they also push the video game as a medium. Like, again, because the first one making that open world, Breath of the Wild really making an open world.
Wind Waker too.
Yeah.
Wind Waker was really expansive.
Yeah.
So each system is going to grab a new generation and a new group of fans.
Yeah, and the storytelling is just amazing, and any of the entries, really. I mean, I always go back to Link's Awakening, because people talk about, like, Link to the Past or Ocarina of Time, or those other games are like their favorites. I go back to Link's Awakening, which was the one on the Game Boy, and the reason I come back to that is A, the music. I love the Ballad of the Windfish, but B, I got chills when I realized what the twist in the narrative was. I get invested in these characters I'm interacting with, and I'm trying to save, and I'm trying to, I'm going to go get this thing for the alligator guy and come back, all the bartering and everything else you do in it. But then as soon as you enter that one shrine and you realize what the twist is in that narrative, I was just like, you're going to what now? No, we can't. No. It's the fact that they've taken the creators have taken all the games and kind of created this overarching narrative with them, and they've actually brought things in that the fans have developed to to glue it all together. And a lot of fans were asking for, well, what's the definitive timeline on these games? Like, if I want to play them in chronology, what do I do? And they're like, oh, you want a timeline? We'll give you 3.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's like asking the Doctor Who people, what's canon? And they just laugh and laugh.
And then they're like, how much time do you have? And they like pull out charts and like Excel sheets, and you're like,
Look, I've got.
I know people who are like that bit from Sunny in Philadelphia. Oh, Zelda timeline, and they Pepe, Link lives.
right. Who is Pepe Silva?
Yeah. Now, if Link dies, we go over here.
Now we're here. Then we go over here.
But yeah, and
we kiss a chicken.
Yeah. And I've seen so many people twist themselves into knots trying to make it all make sense. It's like, relax. It's a game.
It's called the Legend of Zelda for a reason. It's mythology, It's like Greek or Roman mythology. Like there's contradicting stories everywhere. It's a legend.
It's not the actual facts that make sense of Zelda.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do like
My boyfriend just muted the mic to go, Zelda is not a game, Zelda is life. Yesterday he was like, I should be on this panel. And I was like, well, you should have asked sooner.
Yes.
This is great. Curtis.
Right.
I feel bad for all the ceramic shop owners, like minding their business. Like, oh, I threw some stuff on the wheel today, and I feel really good about it, and I think it's really pretty. Oh God! Like, why?
Someday I want someone. Someday I want someone to write a piece of fan fiction where the guy who makes all those pots runs into the guy who sells cabbages from Avatar.
We just started watching Avatar, and like as soon as I saw the dude with the cart, I was like, I know it's coming, and I'm so excited. And when he was like, my cabbages, I was like,
So, do you guys have a when you say expansive? Today, expansive versus that original, not the original game, expansive. What's the difference? How legit expansive was that first one? Because I remember people saying that Pitfall was expansive, and ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, that is not correct. But
I think the expansive part, until Breath of the Wild, there was always a path you had to follow. You had to go to each of the dungeons and get the trinkets that were held inside there to be able to solve the puzzles and go to the last one and defeat Ganon. But you could also go pretty much anywhere in the game you wanted to go in that quest, and it left it up to you to go seek out what combination of things would get you to the right places at the right time. They'd leave little hints, but you had to go find those hints and figure out what to do on your own. So you could go wander the world, to your heart's content and go slay moblins and and everything else. But then you had to actually go in that certain path. Where I think with Breath of the Wild, it got even more expansive because it's a much larger map. You can go anywhere you want to go. And you don't actually have to go to the 4 major dungeons, to the champions to actually go to defeat Ganon. You could walk out of there after the opening tutorial session and walk right off the plateau and go right to Hyrule Castle. It would be a dumb idea, but you could do it.
Yeah. It's amazing how in Breath of the Wild you can pretty much, if you see something on the horizon, you go, I'm going to go up that mountain. You can actually go up that mountain. It's not, it's going to take you a while, but, like in most regular video games, that's just background painting.
Yeah, for sure.
That is what I like. I feel like I'm way late to the game, but this would be my favorite part of the Legend of Zelda thing if I only had 83 hours to devote to going through it all.
Yeah,
but are there? Michael, you touched on this. There are save points, so you're not going to die and have to start over, or are you?
To a degree. I mean, like you can save your progress. It's since the Legend of Zelda, the very first one, '86. You can save your progress in a save file, but depending on where you are on the map, it moves you. Like if you're in a dungeon, it'll move you to the opening screen of the dungeon.
Right. Yeah.
If you want to start again, or you start at the very beginning of where you first spawn, basically. But you keep all your things, and so like it's very easy to maneuver your way back to where you were, go back into what you were doing. Which was, to my knowledge, pretty unique at the time.
Yeah.
It was something that, you're like, well, I can do this. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, there was this. That's a nice bonus.
Yeah, it's not like it was some video games, which I've heard the horror stories like of there were no save files. So I had friends who like left their the Nintendo on for like 30, 40 hours while they were at school and they'd come back to keep playing, Shinobi. Yeah. And I've heard the horror stories of coming home and mom's like, "Why'd you leave this on? I had to turn that off." I'm like,
no. Or like Metroid, where you get to a point where you've got a save password. You're like, okay, I've entered this password. I'm back where I was, and then you get home, and you're like, "Where's my note? Oh, I threw that away, Mom."
My little brother was sick for a few days playing Super Mario, and got, for the very first time ever, to almost the end, and it took him like all weekend, and then he felt better and went to school and did pause the game. He paused it. He swears to this day he paused it, and then he came back. The thing's turned off. Mom! She claims she had no idea what she was doing. He's still angry.
At her funeral, he'll be like, "And despite ruining my life when you turned off my Nintendo, I still love you, and you'll always be in my heart." Now, if you excuse me,
I was gonna win.
Now, if you excuse me, I have the newest Nintendo system paused, and I have to go do something.
No, this as we're taping this, it's a couple of days away from Mother's Day. I guarantee he brings it up. Check back with me next week. I guarantee he brings it up. So, Michael, I'm on to you. He's not watching. Why am I doing that? But yeah, 100%.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Remember that time you ruined my life? Let the princess die.
So what about outside just the game stuff, and of course the cartoon stuff? What else is there Zelda wise? That obviously there's merchandise everywhere, but is there anything else? Have people written books or novelizations, I'm assuming, trying to make sense of it all?
There's an entire manga series that's been written, and they it's in a whole bunch of separate books that kind of follow each of the different games. I think they at one point sold the collected editions in a treasure chest from the game.
I remember that. Yeah.
And so you pop it open to read the books. Da-na-na-na.
Nice.
Nice. They did also have some reference books that Dark Horse put out. Like three in the core set, and then there was an additional one for Breath of the Wild. And I made a point of tracking those down. They are mighty tomes. They're thick, but they're so informative. Like they've taken all the stuff that they can from the games and distilled it down into print, so you can flip through it like, oh, that was the inspiration for this. This is awesome,
I want to interrupt for a minute. My boyfriend made me Triforce dinner that I'm ruining because the peas are falling.
That's so great.
Oh, now everybody has vertigo.
That's awesome.
The Triforce of vegetables has fallen.
There are the guidebooks. As Curtis points out, there were the soundtracks. This is one of the few. Oh, go ahead.
I actually went to the Atlanta Symphony. They did a Legend of Zelda concert, and it was really, really nice. And there was 3 little girls all dressed as Zelda, and their dad was dressed as Link, and I was all like, I don't want kids, but I think my ovaries are gonna explode. Like this is like I asked to take their picture, and I was like, this is too precious for words.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's an actual musical instrument from Zelda that people have learned.
The ocarina.
Yep.
If you go to pretty much any Ren Fair or any convention, there's always someone selling the Master Sword and the Hyrulean Shield, and if you want it, you can find it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. The ocarina.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, our friend Tegan plays in a video game orchestra. I wonder, where is she? We gotta dig her up. I wonder if maybe there's.
She keeps doing something like playing D&D on Thursdays. Tegan,
she ought to be hanging out with us. Come on.
Yes, you can play D&D any night of the week.
Yeah,
she could play D&D like over here while she's talking to us right here.
Yeah, we could roll dice at the same time.
Yeah, come on, man. But we'll drag some Zelda information out of her. I'm sure that's been a thing. If we were going to talk about Donkey Kong Jr., I'd be here all night.
Well, let me pose this question then to Stormy and then Michael. Of what is it that you think keeps the people interested in this franchise? What is it? Do you think it's Link? Do you think it's Zelda? Is it the world? What is it that keeps you coming back?
Oh, that's a good question. For me, I think it's Link. I think it's possible that, obviously other people have other answers. And I also do really like all the worlds that they have created. Like I said, I really liked the style of Wind Waker. That's probably one of my top 3 actually. And it's a very familiar story, the guy from town who's like not really anybody special becomes special. And then, in the 80s, apparently all female protagonists had to get kidnapped. So, you had to slaughter some chickens and find some rupees in the grass and go save her and keep the world safe. And then come home and be a hero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think at its core, it's still the very basic story of good versus evil.
Sure.
There's always the good who's going to go fight the evil who's done something bad. And there's the puzzle solving, which a lot of people have talked about in the chat. And there's the stories and the music and all that stuff I've touched on before. But I think what keeps driving me back to the franchise is the fact that it learns from itself. It evolves. The puzzles get harder, the stories get more involved. But also, like Stormy said, it started out as the typical, the princess gets captured. You have to go off and save her, and she's helpless on her own. She needs this big, strong man with a sword to go save her. But by the time you get to some of these later games, especially post 2000, the princess is actually doing a lot for her own self.
Yeah.
It's to the point where like
a lot of Beyonce.
Yeah. I mean, to the point where in Breath of the Wild, she's the one that saved Link to start the game.
Yeah.
And she's been trapped in the castle with Ganon for the entire time, fighting him while waiting for you to get your happy butt back over there with the sword that can slay him. So she's keeping up her own end of the bargain. She's not just this damsel in distress. And that's one of the things that I really love is the fact that it's the creators and the storytellers are so aware of what they have that they just keep building on it. They don't just retread the old thing every time.
Yeah.
Is it the same? Has it been the same creators the whole time? Have they just been cranking these things out?
I don't think so.
I don't think. And I know that some of the original creators are still kind of there, but I think it's a whole new team usually that builds it.
Still, though, the fact that they've managed to keep it. Well, you see it in comics, but in video games, that's not something that you that happens over the course of decades now.
Yeah, it's usually like, oh, here we just hired some new designers and they're going to make the next Sonic game. And what do you mean the next Sonic game blows? Because you've got a whole different group of people.
Right.
And they don't, well, here's what's wrong with Zelda, so let's reboot it and start it over. Clearly, I don't think that has happened.
No.
Do you think part of Link's charm is the fact that he's mostly a silent protagonist, so you can kind of imprint yourself upon him?
That's one of the things that they've talked about when people say, well, why doesn't he speak? And the creators have always said it's because they want you to imprint on him. You're going on this journey.
Yeah.
And so like he'll do his hiya or whatever else when he's jumping into battle and swinging his sword, but that's really all the talk you get out of it. And they kind of poke fun at it. They hang a lampshade on it in Breath of the Wild, like, you know, you're really silent. Like, yeah.
Yeah, him and Gordon Freeman should hang out.
Well, because he talks a lot in that cartoon. and as I've said, 70% of it is so that kissing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And as Curtis Massey said in the chat as well, like, you know, the fans are so invested that they are very vocal when there's something that they don't like happening in the games. And unlike a lot of other producers and stuff that we see out there, Nintendo takes that on board and says, you know what, you're right. Let's fix that next time.
Huh.
Yeah, they know how to interact with the people that they're selling the games to.
Okay, this is okay. All right, here we go. This is a question for the whole group from our YouTube friends. A Zelda movie.
Weren't they supposed to, like a few years ago, they were talking about doing on, I think it was Netflix, because it's usually Netflix, a live action series?
Yeah, I think they were, and if I remember right from what I was reading, they pulled the plug because it leaked out. Like part of the script or the plot and stuff leaked out, and they're like, no, we wanted it to be, you know, Nintendo was very, very strict about it. Like, we wanted this to be, you know, as tight as possible. And so they kind of pulled the plug on it. I would love to see some adaptation of it. I just don't know who would do it because, you know, I want it done right. But I think like a mini series, you know, like Netflix or even a movie would be okay. But I also look at the fact that, you know, a lot of video game properties don't translate well to film.
They've done a really good job with Castlevania, though. Like, I really love the Castlevania Netflix series. Like, it's like within probably 3 to 7 minutes, I was like, I'm in for the whole season. Like, if they don't make more, I'm gonna be like, I would say write an angry letter, but I'm more likely to burn the building down. So
I was going to say that one in The Witcher. So apparently we just need to let Netflix do it.
Yeah. The thing is, video games in recent years have pretty much been movies already.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You just get to play. And so invariably, when you see them in a live action movie form, my thought is this game would suck if I was playing. This would be terrible. But with a game like Castlevania and like Zelda, both of whom are kind of from the same rough time period, there's the building blocks are there. The building blocks are there for them to construct something. And of course, they've done a zillion things with Zelda since just that first thing. But I gotta say, I feel like either people would. I feel like you got to do it at some point. You got to do a Zelda something. But like you mentioned with Castlevania, no one was clamoring for that. It had been decades since there had been anything of note from Castlevania. But all of a sudden, boom, here's this thing. And it turned out to be surprisingly really good.
Yeah. I always think stuff like that is either going to be like really amazing or you're just going to be like, okay, why did you shoot my childhood in the heart and then set it on fire? That's not cool.
Now, this is a good point that Curtis is making here. Maybe in a Zelda movie, there's no Link.
Yeah, I mean, you could easily do. I mean, it's the Legend of Zelda. It's there. You could easily tell a different story. Maybe the story of it's dangerous to go alone. Take this guy.
Yeah.
I know he has a name. I know you're yelling it at me at the screen.
And there are a lot of open spots in the chronology too, where the hero of time steps up and does the job and then fades away into the background again. And life goes on, but the hero has fulfilled his duty and he moves on. And that could be something that you can look at, like play on the legend, like you're saying, Gary. Oh, you remember the time that this guy in a green suit was running around slashing chickens and mowing the lawn for us? Yeah, like that was pretty cool. One I thought of, just because I'm so immersed in Breath of the Wild right now, is Tales from the Calamity. Like what happened after the events that kicked off the Breath of the Wild itself, because the world is so expansive. There's so many people there. They all have stories already. You could do an anthology type series around that of how they're dealing with it.
I need my 18-part series on the clay pot guy.
He's making pots for the cabbages. That's what's happening. And every time he tries to take his cart to Hyrule, it gets fucked up.
I'm seeing the Legend of Zelda novelization. I feel like I need to get to work on that.
It'll probably be written by Keith R.A. DeCandido.
Oh yeah, he's probably already done it.
Yeah.
Man, Kakariko Village has another request for pots. Like, what are they doing over there with those things?
So many freaking pots.
That the hardship of being a pot dealer in Hyrule.
Right, it's legal now, so I mean, your profession is pretty much gone.
Right.
A lot of laws got passed since the last time we were in Hyrule, but
now we haven't talked much about this guy yet. But I mean, we've mentioned him a few times in passing. But Ganon.
That's true. Is he the best video game villain?
If I remember correctly, he came out on top when we had that panel at Dragon Con of greatest video game villain of all time, hosted by our friends at Needless Things.
Yeah.
But I do believe Ganon came out on top, but I could be mistaken. If I am mistaken, Dave will tell me.
Oh, immediately. Yeah. So that might have happened, but again, think of the little traps with the jaws from Donkey Kong Jr. Come on, people. I'm always going to mention that. But I don't know. So Ganon has continued with the games, right? You just can't get rid of him, and he's been in all of them or most of them.
In one form or another, yeah. Most of them.
Yeah, which is the one where he's the terrifying moon that's going to come crashing down?
Majora's Mask, yeah.
He's like, I've seen so many people talking about its nightmare fuel of this face.
You have 3 days to live before the moon crashes into this place.
These are exactly what sleep paralysis demons look like. And you're like trapped there, and you're like, oh my god, what am I looking at? Jeez.
Let's go back to this question. If they had to choose one game to do a movie or a series, which one would y'all go for?
I'd like to see the backstory from the original, like a more in-depth backstory that got it all started. How things came together, and this, like I said, this normal dude, like just minding his business, living his life, was like, I guess it's up to me. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm picturing, if they did it that way, what I would like would be, you don't actually get to the game stuff until episode 10.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That would be I think that would be the ideal for me. Instead of just going straight to the plot of the first game and then knocking it out. I mean, let's do the backstory that we were never able to do with the power of the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1996.
Mm-hmm.
Wait,
There we go, Joe. I sent you a picture
86.
of weird.
Oh my
moon.
God, it was 86.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
No one was alive then.
No.
No one was alive back then. What'd you send me, Gary?
Creepy moon face, Gannon.
Oh boy.
Creepy
Do you hate Joe? Right? Like, did you guys have a
I
fight?
mean, why?
It's part
All
of
right,
our relationship. We torment each other.
I'm looking for it.
Don't look for it if you want to sleep again. I mean,
Hang on. Oh, dear
fan
Lord. Oh,
and
dear Lord.
that's
in
actual
heaven.
game footage. There's fan art.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. What have you done?
You're welcome.
I think. See, I've been noodling over this while Joe's been losing nights of sleep over the moon.
Where should I put it?
I think if you want to do something self-contained, A Link to the Past or Link's Awakening would probably be a good choice for an adaptation.
Yeah.
But I agree, Ocarina of Time is just so epic of a story. As long as it's done well, so that it's not confusing to people, because I mean, that one deals a lot with time travel, and a young Link and an older Link, that are bouncing back and forth in time trying to defeat Ganon. That would take a lot of coordination and a really good storyteller to make happen right.
Mm-hmm.
They could do it like Quentin Tarantino could do it like Pulp Fiction. Or like,
Oh yeah.
you think you're in the beginning of the movie, but you're really like in the middle of the story, and then you like start to figure it out.
You see, now I want Quentin Tarantino's Legend of
Legend of
Zelda.
Zelda.
Which one is your Master Sword? It's the one that says "Bad Mother."
Yeah.
It's just an hour and 48 minutes of him looking at Zelda's feet.
Yeah. There.
And the only time Link speaks during it is just to say "Mother."
Yeah.
But they could
Samuel
open,
L.
they
Jackson
could
as
open a
Ganon.
chest and the golden light could pour out. Like,
Yeah. What's in the case?
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, guys, I think we've done it. I think we crushed this thing.
Like a pot?
Like a pot.
Yeah. Until I think we've made it crazy like chickens. Like we've bothered it like the chickens. So guys, thank you again for coming and hanging out with us for 50-something minutes of a video game that now I have to go and play, for goodness sake, except for the one with the evil moon face that now has...
Our good friend Allison just posted up a piece of trivia we should know.
Look at that.
oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So again, that's why we have to pick a different side character.
Thank you, Megan. I do have a story that I want to tell before
Sure.
you go.
Yes, let's do it.
Because it's so funny to me. So when Four Swords came out, which was the one, if you guys don't remember, where you played, like, you would link your DSs together.
Oh, yeah.
So I would always demand to be Red Link because red's my favorite color. And I got accused of being a pyromaniac because I couldn't stop setting us on fire. Like, because I would just like smash a lantern into the grass. And my ex-husband, Jim, who I'm still friends with, my ex-husband, Jim, would be like, I'm not giving you the lantern. And I'd be like, give me the lantern. I'll give you the crossbow. And he's like, too many third-degree burns. I can't do it. Like, you're destroying people's lives. And I was all like,
Great.
yeah, he was like, you have a problem. And I was all like, yeah, this grass smash.
That is amazing. I'm glad that there are options like that for people just to go nuts in a game. That's what I want. I don't want to just jump on the alligator's head. Why do I keep coming back to Pitfall? I don't know.
Because you have an obsession, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Lots. I have lots of them. But let's go around to everybody again. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us. Let's go around the horn and Michael, where on the interwebs can you be found?
My main place to be found is my website, Creative Criticality. That's at creativecriticality.net. And if you can't spell or you don't remember the name, it's spelled right there. It's hard to spell sometimes. Among other things that I do with pop culture there, I do a weekly look at Doctor Who. I've been doing that since 2014, from the very beginning of the televised franchise, one story at a time. Right now I'm up to the Matt Smith era. I think I just did the Impossible Astronaut, which, it's the one where Matt Smith gets shot by an Apollo astronaut, comes out of a lake. You can find that once again at creativecriticality.net.
Because on Doctor Who, that makes sense.
Right.
100%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Gary Mitchell.
You can find me here every Thursday with him doing this. The Dragon Con American Sci-Fi Classics Track. You can find me here on the Twitter, where I don't do a lot, but I do kind of try to annoy people of other political spectrum of mine. And you can also find me on the Facebookie under my name. And Jessa and I are putting together and about to start a podcast about Babylon 5. It's her first time watching, and not my first time watching. And so that is coming soon.
Yay.
Nice.
Very cool.
So will her reactions be like an integral part of your cast?
Pretty much, yes.
Please.
Awesome.
Just screaming. Just Jessica.
It's funny because, as a woman of color, modern fan, her looking back at this 90s show, which, I mean, she's not like 20 something, but she's still, her modern perspective on this classic show is one of the key things I love about us doing it.
You call this CG work? What is this?
What is this?
What was this done on, a toaster? Well, actually,
it's an Etch-a-Sketch tape to a toaster. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Don't shake it. You'll ruin everything.
And Stormy. I
can be found at Tempest Zero Mouthy on Twitter, which I only know because Gary tagged me in something, and I was all like, "Oh yeah, that is my Twitter handle." I'm not on Twitter a lot. I do sporadically pop on there to do not wholesome things that I can talk about on the show, and actually also harass people of political persuasions. And I'm Stormy O'Dell on Facebook. You should probably tell me that you found me this way, because as any woman knows, the internet is full of creepers or, princes from other country who just need to borrow my bank account, and then they'll send me 30% off this app.
Mm-hmm.
Heck yeah.
That's a great deal.
That's a sweet deal.
I know. I'm like, what are my literal royalties? Like, do I get a palace?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
A harem? That would be pretty tight.
Yeah.
But we...
and still no restraining order against Ryan Reynolds.
No, it's not going to happen.
Or Hendrik Lundqvist.
But guys, thank you so very much for coming and spending some time with us. We've loved doing this now for more than a year. Every week. Used to be we would get to do this once a year for 4 crazy days that all of a sudden it would be Monday and we had no idea. And now we've managed to spread this out over the course of like an hour every hour.
Yeah.
Every week. And we have had the most fun doing it. We're not going to stop. We hopefully, fingers crossed, all other things crossed, maybe we get to see everybody in person this year at Dragon Con and other sci-fi conventions. But in the meantime, we are going to be here on the YouTubes and on the Facebooks at Thursday, on Thursday, whatever. And please check us out on YouTube, like us, subscribe to us, all those things. You know what you have to do, because we got to get our rookie numbers up. And next week, our topic.
Please like, share, subscribe.
Please do all those things. I don't know. Well, I mean, I'm not a 4-year-old kid opening toy packages. We got to do something.
I don't know, Joe. I might tune in to watch you open your package.
Where are we now? What is happening? Who is?
I have another story, actually.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it.
So when I was at work a few years ago, so I used to have my notification tone used to be the da 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 da. And I forgot to mute my phone before I went into work one day, and it went off. And this guy like pops up over his cubicle and goes, "What did you find?"
That's great.
That's awesome.
All right, so next week, Joe.
Yeah, is next week.
Next week is Marvel.
The MCU in the 80s?
Yes. What if the MCU started in 1989 or 88,
Spoiler
whatever
alert,
year it
it's
was?
just the Brat Pack plays everybody.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Please. Yep. This is the second in our series of what if the MCU started in a different time period. The first one we did was the 70s. And so now we're following up with the 80s. And it's only taken us a year to get to part 2 of this ongoing series.
Yep. And the 70s one, as I recall, went off the rails immediately.
Yes.
So
Shocker.
I know.
Just like the MCU in the 70s.
Exactly.
So much Bixby. So much Bixby content.
All the Bixby. Pro Bixby in all ways. But in the meantime, join us on our Facebook every day. We do silliness like this all the time. And we will see you here next Thursday night when Gary Mitchell will say,
Yatu, please, you're being a creep. Stop watching while I change.
Good night, everybody.
I can't finish if you don't look me in the eyes.
Oh!